Willie King, terrorized. What about me? Cut to the chase. I'm Sylvester Rivers. Ife Jai will be with us shortly. We have a very, I think, informative program today. Somewhat might be controversial to some, maybe not to others. Because a long time ago at KPFK, somebody told me to, if you have a controversial program, open up the phone. So we will do that, 818-985-5735. If you want comments on some of the things we will be talking about. Or to pledge, because we are in fund drive, and we need 10 of you to pledge $100. That's $1,000. Only $1,000 for the information that you get on this people-powered station. 818-985-5735. I think later in the program, Gary will have some thank you gifts for you, I hope. But that doesn't even matter. You want to pledge anyway because of all the things you've heard here that you hadn't heard anywhere else. 818-985-5735. Yes, we'll be taking your calls if you so desire later on, and you can call and pledge right now. We need one caller to start out. In between time and in the meantime, we're going to go to the headlines of Democracy Now! With Amy Goodman.
Israel's army has ordered 1.1 million civilians in the northern Gaza Strip to evacuate southwards within just 24 hours from last night, an order the United Nations called impossible without devastating humanitarian consequences. The ultimatum came as Israel massed troops who signed a pro-Palestinian letter were displayed on a billboard truck on campus Wednesday with a banner that read Harvard's leading anti-Semites. Some of their names and personal information were also posted online. They were doxxed. That action was organized by the ultra-conservative nonprofit Accuracy in Media.
Well, all right. Welcome. Good morning, Miss Ife.
Good morning. Happy Friday, Sly. How you feeling?
You're in the days. I'm good. I know you're running.
Man,
I know.
Listen, you know this technology thing is a trip. You don't have one thing, you don't have no thing. Yeah. So I'm grateful for being able to be on with you today. So, this thing in Israel, I have to catch up.
Well, good. Well, we're going to run through that then. We're going to run through that. So
okay, let's do it.
Well, I had a lot of us. Some of my partners were messaging each other. Do you see that message?
Yeah, I see a conversation.
Right. So we're going to talk. We're going to start with that conversation. Then we're going to break it down. How's that sound to you?
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good to you.
Who is this conversation between? I'm looking at G and.
I wasn't going to name names because to protect the innocent, we won't name names. But just some of my cycling partners. So go ahead and read the first couple of lines there.
Okay, I'll be G first. Well, if I reflect back some, Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, right? And what did the USA do in response? Drop 2, not 1 nuclear bombs on Japan, right? In response, my opinion on the Gaza Strip war, that Hamas, backed by Iran, that they started last Saturday. Bomb Hamas. I believe Israel has the right to defend its borders and respond not proportionally, but bomb Hamas out of the Gaza Strip.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Let's stop right there.
Sure.
So basically, he's just advocating. Okay, they
have the right.
They have the Iran that Israel has the right to bomb the heck out of them. Okay, Interesting. But let's look at where this all started. This is going to get a little complicated, but let's start way at the beginning. Israel obviously was created in 1948. A lot of people know this, 1948, because they wanted a homeland of their own. So they didn't know where to go. They were going to go to different places. They looked at South America. They looked at Africa, even Uganda, to go there. But they came upon this part of the country was supposedly the Holy Land, Israel. So they were trying to say, okay, we need to we get this land. Now, how did they get it? At that particular time, that was around 1933, the Second World War was about to jump off. The Nazis were big. Now, Ife, there's a thing called called T page 4. Do you see page 4? It's
Say it again?
it's like 04 TA4 from the transfer on your stuff I emailed you. So
Looking at an Israel Solidarity International.
no, not that. That's it's like
Not that.
it's
Okay.
TA24. Let me pull it up.
Yeah.
It's it's from. Let me see how I send it to you. Anyway, I'm going to read the first one. You might find if you look in your email, it said might be
Yeah. TA04. Which one you want to read?
the page 4. You see it underlined. First of all, let's talk about was how Israel was created, how
Yeah.
and why. Okay, so there's the three big Jewish organizations back at the time. Do you see that American Jewish Committee?
I do. The American Jewish Committee, the B'nai
B'nai B'rith.
B'rith, and the American Jewish Congress.
Right. Now, let's go down a little bit where it's underlined. Moreover, start right there. Read that.
Sure, it reads, moreover, many German Jews believed that they were so-called Hofi-Dum, or courtly Jews, and that core religionists from Poland and Russia were uncivilized and embarrassing. The bias was best summarized in a June 1894 German-American Jewish newspaper, the Hebrew Standard, which declared that the totally assimilated American Jew is closer to Christian sentiment around him than to the Judaism of these miserable, darkened Hebrews. Interesting.
Yeah, so that sets up the tone for what's happening in Israel as far as the racism against the dark people. The Europeans who have the Jewish religion are called Asnasi Jews. They're in over there now. And they're what I call, a lot of them, many in the hierarchy, are white supremacists. If you remember during apartheid South Africa, that's my opinion. Now, that is my opinion, but you could look at the record. If you look at when South Africa was under apartheid, what happened? The two countries that supported the apartheid government of South Africa were what? America and Israel. So now people are saying that, that's not by accident, by any chance. So let's move forward. So going back to when they was trying to establish this state, go over to the next page where it starts on. But the committee, you see that?
Sure.
So now they're trying to get to the state of Israel created. Go ahead. But
the committee split off from other American Jewish groups, negotiating Jewish rights when in the committee review, the proposed rights went too far. Specifically, when Versailles mapmakers were redrawing boundaries based on religious, linguistic, and other ethnic affinities, popular Jewish sentiment abandoned to be counted among the minority groups targeted for self-determination. That meant a Jewish homeland in Palestine, Zionism.
yes.
Committee leaders. Oh, do you want me to continue?
Yes, I just want you to take a pause.
Sure.
Okay, keep going.
Committee leaders were repulsed by Zionism. In their view, a refuge in Palestine would promote Jewish expulsions from countries where Jews lived and enjoyed roots. Anti-Semitic regimes could point to Palestine and claim you belong there in your own nation. However, majority Jewish sentiment won out at Versailles, assuring a Jewish homeland in Palestine with preserving Jewish rights in other countries.
Okay, so that's they're negotiating to basically create the state of Israel in Palestine, and there was some controversy among the Jewish leadership.
And it sounds like they knew that the moment that they were going to do this adventure of creating essentially a homeland, that they were going to have tensions between the Palestinians from the very beginning.
Well, that didn't matter.
It didn't matter, but it seems like they were at least mindful that this is going to be a thing.
Okay, so let's go to the next one, which is really interesting. Then we're going to come to, and by the way, the opinions you hear, some of the stuff is factual, but then I will be giving some of my opinions. I think what we go to now with page, let me see, I think 12. Let me open my book here. Yeah, go to page 12.
On page 12, March 19th, 1933 was also the day that the swastika was unfurled over German consulates in Jerusalem and Jaffa. Should I continue?
Yes.
Germany maintained the 2 consulates in Palestine as part of its normal diplomatic relations with Great Britain. Angry Tel Aviv Jews prepared to storm the consulates and burn the new German flag. But Zionist leaders were afraid to provoke the Nazis, lest Berlin suddenly clamped down on Zionist organizing and fundraising activities in Germany.
Stop right there. Read that again. But Zionist leaders, go ahead.
It says, but Zionist leaders were afraid to provoke the Nazis, lest Berlin suddenly clamped down on Zionist organizing and fundraising activities in Germany.
Okay, so now let's go up to the top of page 13. Read that, please.
It says that the Hitler regime flames up with anger because it has been forced through fear of foreign public opinion to forego a mass slaughter.
Right.
Go down.
So let's just unpack this. So what they're saying is this. They did not want to boycott against Germany, they being some of the Jewish Zionists, because it would prevent them from maintaining or getting their state of Israel and Palestine. Right? So there was a lot of upset Jews who said, no, we need to boycott. But they knew that would bring Germany down. Okay, go ahead, go ahead.
But this talk of an international Jewish-led boycott was frightening Germany's legislators. Such a boycott could disable German export industries, affecting every German family. Goebbels expressed the Nazi fear in his diary. And he goes on to read about the horrors of the propaganda.
Yeah, that's good. So, in other words, they say, okay, one of the main objectives of 2 of those main Jewish organizations was to get the state of Israel established. They knew what Hitler was doing. They knew that he was committing atrocities against the Jewish population. However, they did not want to say anything because it might stifle or heighten, stop their attempts to get the Jewish homeland. So what they did not talk about those atrocities that were going on in Germany. So now let's look at boycott. There's been a movement to boycott Israel because Israel has basically replaced, they're using the same tactics that the Nazis used to maintain a superiority state, right? Let me say that again. They're using the same tactics that the Nazis used to create a state, their own, basically white homeland, the religion being Judaism. So with that in mind, those tactics included propaganda. Let's see. Go to the next. What do we got next on the list there? Go to page 13. Did we go to page 104? See what that says. But let me just say this before, because I'm not sure if it's there. What Hitler did in order to justify killing those Jewish people was he had a multi-million-dollar media campaign to justify killing the Jews. In other words, he demonized them.
Yeah.
He made them look like, quote unquote, animals. He made them look like the other. Where have we heard that before?
Oh, we hear it all the time. It's a part of the the justification mental moment of saying, "Oh, well, you're other than, so it's okay for me to do any kind of violent things to you."
In the meantime, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, and I also want to say that what's interesting is how the common person gets caught up in some of these larger political battles. You know, it was interesting to hear Democracy Now! Talk about the family of Palestinian people who lost their uncle because of the bombing after a wedding. What's interesting is the common person. I just want to say that even though this is a very politically heated kind of moment, because anytime we start talking about Jews and Zionism and Israel, it's always a hot topic in America. But I want to make it very simple and plain that there are some people that don't agree with their government. Same way we see here in America.
Well, there's a lot of people because they're apartheid. They took the Gaza Strip in 2021. Israel briefly detained that's a different. Yeah, I think it was it was 14 years ago, where they closed the Gaza Strip, and they're under it's like. I'm going to compare it to United States when they did their trek over America by killing the Native Americans, fighting the Native Americans, saying this is our land now. Thank you very much because we're God's chosen people. We're the S, and this is us now. So Native Americans said, "What? I mean, we were here, and but we're here now." And so. They started doing their thing and taking down their teepees and whatnot. And oh, my God, Native Americans, they started fighting back. I mean, they had some victories, what is called, they killed people. War is terrible. They killed people. So you can compare that to what's going on now, whereas you have the Palestinians who've been oppressed and they're fighting back. But
yeah, and it's an unfortunate reality. I have family members that are Ashkenazi Jews, and they have had loved ones who have been caught up in between this tension between Palestine and Israel. I think one of my family members' mothers was a victim of a bombing. And, it's a harsh reality, and I just want to be clear about that there's these very large-scale macro ideological political battles that are going on that we cannot ignore.
Yes.
But the basis of the society, the people that are affected, they're not always reflective of the political sentiment. What's unfortunate is that we really do have casualties of war. Yeah, and I know of Israeli young people who don't believe in the government, who don't want to be in the military, who don't agree with some of the things that they're doing to the Palestinian people. And so it's just an unfortunate reality that our world is having to see right now.
And part of that is the propaganda machine. Did you go back to that G at the bottom where President Biden said, I'll read that because you might not have it. President Biden said, this is during that message that we had. President Biden said, "No justification for terrorism. Children and babies were decapitated." Oh, my goodness. Children and babies. Now, remember, Hitler had this multi-million-dollar campaign to get the public sentiment. The public sentiment is very important to do what you do, right?
Yeah.
So remember back in during the Gulf War, now he reiterate the testimony. Oh my God, the Israelis, they're coming in and they're taking the babies in the incubators and they're throwing them on the ground. And it was a lie. It was all a lie.
The part of the propaganda.
A lot of it is propaganda. So then you see now what we're having, I compared this to back when the settlers, the Trail of Tears. Remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Just leave with nothing. What do you sing in Israel now? You sing, "Leave, we don't have anything for, just go." The Trail of Tears. Now, why, the important part is to get the public sentiment on your side. Right now, America is fighting 4 wars. They're fighting, 4. They're in Ukraine.
Are you saying 4 literal wars?
Whatever. Well, this is what they call undeclared wars. But
wow.
But yeah.
But we have military. There is military occupation in 4 different.
Well, there's occupation. That's way more. But they're actually trying to. There's 3, and they're getting ready to start another one.
So definitely in Ukraine. Now they're military occupancy in Israel.
Because you got all these warships. The biggest warship going there, to warships, and then you have what do you have? And they're getting ready to invade Haiti.
Yeah, we were talking about that last time.
And
And this type of and I could feel it on my shoulder. This is why we have to support KPFK, because these types of conversations, there really is no other space where we can control the propaganda, or at least be critical of the propaganda that the mass media is being fed.
right.
So if you like what you hear today, please really consider being a subscriber today, kpfk.org, or you can call in and subscribe and make a donation, make a pledge, because this conversation, it has to be had. At some point, we have to be critical of what's going on in our politics, and be able to do it in a healthy and a safe space.
No, let me
And
just
KPFK definitely gives us that platform.
818-985-5735. Now, let me just say this. Israel, they're getting ready to train police down in Atlanta. They have the most sophisticated network of spying and all this in the world. They're so sophisticated. Matter of fact, let me read this. Israel brief. This is 2021. Reuters. Israel briefly detained 4 Palestinian fishermen off the Mediterranean coast of Gaza on Saturday, Palestinian and Israeli sources said. The Israeli military said it apprehended 4 suspects after 2 Palestinian vessels strayed from the designated fishing zone. The designated fishing zone. You can only fish here in northern Gaza Strip. Violating security restrictions, the Navy fired at the boats when they failed to respond to instructions to halt. It added. Now, here's the kicker. Israel is supposed to be the sophisticated spy network, right? But yet they were attacked by air, sea, and all this land.
Well, they were supposed to know it was coming if they had this.
Well, I think they did. I think they did. You didn't hear what I said. I said I think they did.
Yeah.
In other words, we see cases of where things are done, just like the lies to invade Iraq. Well, oh my God, this was a surprise. It was not a surprise. And by the way, why was Netanyahu just meeting with Biden about a week before this happened?
Curious.
Now, Zionist, when they didn't want to talk about what the atrocities that the Germans were doing. You see what I'm saying? They said, okay, we won't say it because the only thing is to get our homeland.
Oh, yeah. People definitely are mindful of the information they reveal.
So now,
because of the incentives that it may risk them.
Yes. So now we have the same situation. We're going to take a break in a second. We have the same situation where, okay, what is a good way to take this land with public sentiment? It's almost like in Ukraine. You have to set it up. Oh my God, look what they did. Oh, they're killing babies. They're decapitating people. They're doing this. They're bombing civilians. Oh, we need to bomb them off the map. They're animals.
Yeah, it's always the same protocol in terms of justification. You have to create a need, a real need that the society doesn't question, just like we see the need of violence being pushed down our throats. Oh, crime is going off the radar. Crime statistics are going up the charts.
But you haven't seen those statistics, right?
You know what I mean? Yeah. We need more military presence in our schools. We need, it's always this fear.
Bomb them off the map.
It's always this fear. It's always this fear.
We're going to take a break here of going back to I've Been Terrorized, and we'll be right back. 818-985-5735. Yeah, I think it was a preemptive strike that America and Israel knew about.
Stole my name, left me in chains. You know they hung me from the tallest oak tree. They cast a raid on me, everything they want to do. You talk about terror, I say you talk about terror. People have been terrorized all my days. had to plot and muse.
Terrorize. Who's the real terrorist? So, let's keep going on this here. Let's go down to these, to the messages. Thanks to my partners who keep me in touch.
You talking about the conversation between your bike friends?
Yeah, this was somebody they sent this to me. This is not one of them saying, Secretary of State, do you see that?
Let me catch up with you. What's so wonderful is that we have all this technology now. Mm-hmm. And they say, by the way, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton in 2008 publicly declared that the U.S. had made an error in not engineering the election outcome to ensure that Hamas would
back up, read that again.
Let's back up, rewind selector.
Go ahead, say that again.
All right, let's start from the beginning. This is a conversation between two folks talking about the facts. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton in 2008 publicly declared that the U.S. had made an error in not engineering the election outcome to ensure that Hamas wouldn't be chosen as the representatives of the Palestinians' government.
Okay, right there. So I remember when Hamas won the elections. Oh my God! Everybody, in the progressive radical community was happy. But of course, the U.S. Oh my God! Hamas is, they're going to take over. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay, and then it continues to read that as a sidebar, Victoria Nuland learned from the Hillary Declaration in 2009 and engineered the Ukraine election to ensure that the chosen U.S. electorate would win in 2014.
Oh, what you say?
Jimmy Carter. Should I continue? That Jimmy Carter was in the Gaza Strip monitoring the 2009 election and deemed it free and fair at the time.
So basically, they're talking about intervention in electoral politics, So
we've seen that before, though. I think there was a moment where Dr. Umoja, who was a beloved historian and friend of our show here at Cut to the Chase on 90.7 KPFK, but he was talking about at one point going down to Venezuela to be able to monitor and witness some of the elections that were happening in Venezuela. But I think that's a part of the colonial imperial project, is that they go into the governments and they put the people in place that they want to be able to control and manipulate.
Well, actually, a friend of mine did go to Venezuela during those elections, and she said it was free and fair. She never saw so. But see, they'll change it, the narrative here. And they won't recognize it if it's not their puppet that they want to put in. Then they say, well, this. And then, I heard earlier today somebody talking about democracy in Israel and democracy in Ukraine. Give me a break.
Yeah, we have to be very careful about the propaganda that's been given to us. And I think at this particular juncture, I'm always curious of how the people are affected. What do the people on the ground say about what's going on in politics? What do the Israeli young people say? What do the Palestinian young people say?
They're under apartheid. They have, they're totally controlled. They've been murdered daily. But at the same time, like I said, this I don't think was an accident that this attack by Hamas came. They know where Hamas is. They know what they have. They have all this intervention. But because they don't mind casualties, what they call collateral damage.
Yeah. We
don't mind collateral damage, but look at the benefits. We then can just bomb them. We'll get all this land. Hello. International. So this war has not started this past Saturday. It's been going on since 2009 and even before that. Look at the thing, international solidarity in the face of racism. Do you see that? That's, what is that on?
Looks like we're looking at another document.
Yeah, it's called International Solidarity.
Oh, yeah, I know exactly what that is. Here we go. International Solidarity in the Face of Racism. And it reads, the acquittal of racist murderer George Zimmerman here in the United States sparked outrage and demonstrations, not only around the world, but also including Palestine. Many Palestinians circulated pictures of themselves holding signs that read, Palestinians stand with those who mourn Trayvon Martin's death. We know what it feels like to lose loved ones and to watch the murderers evade justice.
Yeah, evade justice. Go ahead. You're doing well.
Yeah. Here in the United States, Students for Justice in Palestine and Students United for Palestinian Equal Rights released a statement saying, as people who are fighting for justice in Palestine, we understand how racism is used to justify and perpetuate an unjust system that oppresses whole populations. Our government tries to divide us by telling us that Black is synonymous with criminal, in the same way that it tries to tell us that Arab and Muslim is synonymous with terrorists. This was just one episode in a longer history of solidarity between the Black and Palestinian struggles. Historically and presently, there are clear parallels between the oppression suffered by the Blacks and the Palestinian nations. From racial profiling, incarceration of youth to whites, only roads, neighborhoods, buses, housing, and schools, white supremacy in the United States closely resembles the occupation of Palestine.
Okay. Right.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. So basically what they're saying is, look, you've been fighting, you've been killed, we've been shot down. We have Omali Shateli. I recorded him last Saturday. I don't know if I'll be able to play him today. It was a great speech that he gave. If not, I'll play it next week.
Yeah, I'm waiting to hear about it. I know it was a good time.
Strong brother. In person, he's just so amazing. And so we've been fighting this struggle. So this war has not started this past Saturday. And there's been casualties on both sides. War is bloody, unfortunately. My condolences to people on both sides. But now what we're seeing is the lack of humanity. And then the attempt, the creation of the ability to commit the genocide against.
So I love these kind of conversations, Sly, because I'm learning while we're learning. While we're teaching our audience about this conversation. But I want to cut to the chase. Make it plain for me. At the end of the day, who is this war against? This is the Israelis and the Palestinians. And at the end of the day, the Palestinians are finally fighting the Israelis, or the Israelis are bombing the Palestinians.
They've been fighting.
Cut to the chase, Sly.
They've been fighting for a long time. What this is really about is land acquisition and white supremacy. You have the United States, who's trying to get, make sure they have that land over in Ukraine. They're trying to make sure they have a puppet here, Israel, to take care, to get all that land. Another person wrote something about so in other words, if you look at the map of Gaza back before Israel occupied it, there was a lot of Palestinians. It keeps shrinking and shrinking. I might have sent that to you because they keep taking the land, and now I think they're growing oranges and all kinds of stuff on that land. So they want the land. They keep expanding on the West Bank. So it's about imperialism. And then they use that but not just for anybody, for the certain class of people. Like when you first read how the darker skinned Jews were not liked. So it's about white supremacy. That's why Israel and America keep supporting these racist entities, like when they did South Africa. And that's why I said, you know what, this is not by accident. They knew the Palestinians because they've been fighting. They've been killing. The the army has been killing Palestinians daily. But now when they fight back, it's like, the native, when they fight, y'all natives can't fight back. You just have to take it. I
think it's interesting the way that they correlate the Palestinians, what the Palestinians are going through with what Black folks are dealing with right here in the United States. I think that's so interesting.
Good. Yeah. Okay, what we're going to do, I think we might have time to play this. Speaking of the United States, so it comes back home. In the 80s, the United States used its CIA to fund a war, one of their other wars, and they dropped the drugs back in. I'm going to play cut one. You see what it is, of Mark. This, that's the one, yeah. So this was on Think Outside the Cage Saturday. Very, very interesting. This brother, I don't know how much we can get of it, but he talks about, the creation of disharmony in the Black community, starting at the top. Hit it.
In a 1996 series of articles in the San Jose Mercury News by investigative reporter Gary Webb, he laid bare the connection between the crack cocaine explosion in South LA and the Central Intelligence Agency. Of course, all listening know that Central Intelligence Agency is part of the U.S. federal government. He writes in these articles, for the better part of a decade, a San Francisco Bay Area drug ring sold tons of cocaine to the Crips and Blood Street gangs of Los Angeles. The whole, the drug sales, the whole operation that was going on. How did you become involved in that? And did you start out like a big mogul with all this kind of money and buying all the drugs, or, who were you?
Well, I was an actively participant in a street gang, and what happened was I went to youth authority, and when I got out of youth authority, they let me out a few years early because I agreed to leave town. I always would come back for Christmas, Thanksgiving, Christmas. I came back, and I think it was like 1981, getting ready to be 82, and I started seeing a lot of people riding around in these Cadillacs. And they had these big old gold chains on them and stuff. I'm like, nobody from my particular community had money, was involved with the cocaine at the time. And so I left, and then I came back again. And that's when I, started inquiring about how these dudes getting all this money and what's going on. And unfortunately, I came up on the scene because one of my homeboys got killed. Some guys that went in there and robbed him and killed his brother, which was my homeboy, and paralyzed him in a wheelchair. So out of that community, I was the only one going out to Rancho, this rehabilitative home in Downey, going out there visiting because he was paralyzed and trying to help him with his therapy. And he told me he had $25,000 buried in the backyard. He wanted me to go get it. And he said, man, you deserve it. And I wasn't going to spend it because I still considered that to be his money. So I started talking to a few people, and I went from buying a 8th track, which was about, I can't remember exactly what it was, but I started off with 3.5 grams. Then I went from a 8th track to what they call a quarter piece, which is 7 grams. And then I went from that to a half ounce. An ounce was $2,800.
Wait, $2,800 what?
$2,800.
Whoa.
For an ounce. At that time, an ounce was $2,800.
And that's pure cocaine.
Yeah, that was pure. It wasn't this stuff they got now. People were making money. So I remember when I went to go get my first key, at the time, a key was probably $50,000. Before I had a chance to buy it, somebody from Freeway Rick organization that, if we say, tapped in with me, and they say, man, we hear you kind of move and stuff. What are you paying for this? Everybody thought I was getting keys, but I wasn't. I was only getting like a couple of pounds. And so I went from there up to a key. And I say, I was told like 50,000, 49,000. And well, I can give it to you for 30. And my sister's firstborn dad, who was AG Artie, he had approached me. He was driving in a Courtney's Rolls Royce at the time. He came over one day. He seen me out there shining my BMW and everything. He said, man, what is you doing, man? And I told him. And he said, well, I tell you what if I fronted you 5 for 15 a key, 15,000. So I went from like 40 something all the way down there. I'm like, what? I'm like, oh man. I said, is it any good? He says, the best you're gonna get. So this is when the market started getting messed up. You see, it was so much starting to come in now, and that's because actually it's because Rick had flooded the market already. So now there's so much competition, and that's what started a lot of these wars, because they was mad because Rick had flooded the market and brought the price down so bad. I mean, brought the price down so low that, it was a lot of anger involved. And so now people are fighting over territory and they're fighting over, who's going to distribute it over here, who's going to distribute it over there. This is where the gangs came in. This is why it was easy for me to fit in, because I was a prominent gang member at the time. And I had a lot of influence. The thing that I get and I understand now is that a lot of people say, well, why did all the killing and everything get involved? Because it was already killing, but it wasn't as prevalent because you didn't have them machine guns and Uzis and all that. And these guys didn't have all this money to continue to keep buying all this ammunition to go to these machine gun and Uzis.
You got the drugs from the Colombians, like at a certain point, but were the Colombians working, as Gary Webb said, with the CIA?
But the Colombians, they played a role. Them and the Nicaraguans played a role in the ammunition. Us getting all them automatic ammunition over here. We didn't get that from over here. That stuff was coming from over there somewhere, Central America.
Yeah, so the way Gary Webb tells it is that the drugs from Colombia were funneled through the CIA agents. CIA agents got it to you guys, the big rollers, not just anybody. And the money that they got from you, from the sales, went to Nicaragua to fund the Contras, and they're the fighting force that was fighting against the Sandinistas, and that was a liberation front in Nicaragua. They were fighting for the freedom of the people in Nicaragua. So the CIA didn't want that because that meant maybe communism, and that meant it came away from U.S. control, and they weren't going to have that.
I think when it comes specifically with that CIA thing, I think that was more when it went into other individuals' lane. That wasn't like me. I never dealt with that. I didn't know nothing about that, but I know their presence was there, and that's why certain people was moving like 400 keys. Man, you're not moving no 400 keys and don't nobody know nothing about that.
You're not moving 400 keys and don't know nobody. Nobody know nothing about that. You don't move all these ships and things but around Israel. Nobody know about that. You don't do that. They know about that. They know you getting ready. But you know what? This would be a great propaganda idea so that then we can just, commit genocide against them. Then we'll have everybody on our side.
That's a daggum shame when you say it like that's like, because it sounds so obvious. It's so funny when people will say things like, oh, the government would never do anything like that.
Never.
That just seems like conspiracy theory type stuff. But now we know things like the CIA putting drugs into the community is real. Now we know COINTELPRO was real. These things are not it's not far-fetched as much as we would like it to be. It really isn't.
And I have to give credit to Jerry Silva interviewing Mark Cofield last Saturday on Think Outside of the Cage. That's another great program on KPFK. You can go to the archives and hear the entire interview. 818-985-5735. Who is calling to support this information? I sit down, I do this research, and I look, and I hope somebody will come and support what we do here, because I think it's key. It's crucial. It's I want you to go to page 256 for go to page 256 and read that. Let me pull it up in my book here. This is KPFK Los Angeles. We're in Fund Drive. We urge you to call in. Not 256. Yeah, let me see. Hold on a second here. We call you to urge it. Call you.
I have 356.
That was my mistake. Go to 359. You go to 359. Let's see what that says there.
359. Yeah. I'm here. But where was it? That's how the sentence begins.
Yes.
Where was the enforcement clause? Where was the Central Jewish Committee? Where was the promise to be organized? This resolution merely called for the continuation of the spontaneous boycott, the unorganized boycott.
Okay, what is that?
This is talking about the Jewish boycott.
Yeah, so in other words, they didn't want to boycott Germany because it would prevent them from establishing the Zionist state of Israel. So there was so they act like, well, yeah, we'll have a non-binding resolution, but they really didn't want it because they would, and the war could have been won if there was a boycott because Germany depended on those workers and all that other stuff to feed its people. They were actually starving, but they refused to boycott it because they wanted to establish the state of Israel. Okay, 818-985-5735. I want to go I guess I better not more go to that clip, but no, wait. Let's do this. We're running out of time. Okay, Jerry's on the line. Great. Is that her? Okay, let's pull her up. And hey, Jerry, thank you so much for that.
Hey.
Thank you so much for your work.
Thank you. This show is like balm to me. I mean, BALM, balm. I've been so upset by the reaction around what's happening in the Middle East. My family is Middle Eastern. Part of my family were from Haifa when Haifa was part of Palestine. And it's just, people don't get it. For years, I don't know, a span of 10 years, over 6,000 Palestinians were killed. At the same time, 300 Israelis were killed.
Wait, back up. You said you want to run those numbers by us again.
Okay, but I wish I had the
No, what you said was great. Yeah, but I mean, the reality is there's no humanity, the morality of this country. Well, it's never been here. It was created on killing people and enslaving people. So what has changed?
Absolutely.
What has changed?
Absolutely.
I understand now why the Germans could have killed so many people. I understand why they could enslave people. I understand why they could commit genocide. They're still doing it, Jerry.
They're still doing it, and the parts that I really don't get is that people don't understand the complicity of the United States, the reason why we have Israel in the Middle East to protect oil interests, to protect U.S. and all imperial interests. That's it. Not because people care about the Israeli people.
Yes, control of the land. Yes, control of the land. 818-985-5735.
Thank you, Sly.
Yeah, Jerry, everybody, she has a show every Sunday, is it? What time?
Sunday at 9.
All right, let's go to Teresa in Santa Monica, 818. I hope we get those $100 subscribers. Then we'll have Gary on at the end to let us know what they can get.
Hello.
Hi, Teresa from Santa Monica. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. Yeah, I love this show. It's the best show I've heard since the war got started. And I just want to ask you to please give the name again of the document that you're reading from.
Okay, thank you for that insight. It's called The Transfer Agreement, the Untold Story of the Secret Pact Between the Third Reich and Jewish Palestine by Edwin Black.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Again, The Transfer Agreement, the Untold Story of the Secret Pact Between the Third Reich and Jewish Palestine. Now I think there's another one, the secret between the United States and Israel to allow Hamas to bomb, to come in and create this havoc. But before it happened, they had a whole media campaign to show how they would brand it. Oh, babies, people getting their heads chopped off. Where have I heard this before? I guess we have time for one last caller. Mark in Los Angeles. Mark, what's going on?
Hello. Thank you for your program. I am a longtime supporter of KPFK and a longtime supporter of the Palestinian people and their right for self-determination.
You know, now they're outlawing that support. Go ahead.
Yeah. One of the most supportive countries of the Palestinian people has been Cuba, and I am involved in helping to end the U.S. blockade of Cuba and wanted to invite people to a program at the Machinists Union Hall on Sunday, which will feature trade union activists from the Philippines who are fighting for union rights. That address is 1261 Avalon Boulevard in Wilmington, the Machinists Union Hall at noon. And thank you, Sylvester, for your support for the LA Hands Off Cuba Committee and our efforts to end the blockade.
Thank you, Mark, for your activism, man. You are not a ally. You're in the band, man.
Yeah, we love that. Keep up the good work. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you.
All right. So
this has been 90.7 KPFK, Cut to the Chase with Sylvester Rivers and your girl, Ife Jai. We've been talking that good talk today We have just a few minutes left, and make sure you subscribe, kpfk.org, and call in. And what's the number, sorry?
818-985-5735. Gary, what you got? You got anything for us, man?
Well, if you're not calling in for the content that you hear right now,
and I don't know why you wouldn't, all this sweat and time we put in, and look, and Ife is even taking care of a child at the same time. Go ahead.
That's right. She's hugging her child right now as we speak. Yes, folks, go to the phones and hit 818-985-5735 and get yourself a T-shirt, get yourself a tote bag, or get yourself a coffee mug and support this radio station. For only a $50 donation, we'll send you a mug, a T-shirt in any size in black with red and white with the big microphone. Says KPFK out in front. Free Speech Radio. Support it. 818-985-5735. We also have tickets to Stephanie Miller's comedy show at the Saban Theater coming up October 21st. Call the phone room. Ask Terry how you can get on that list. For a $150 donation, you can meet and greet with Stephanie and the panel. 818-985-5735. But folks, I got to reach out to you and just say that the woman said it earlier. This is the best programming since the war started, and a lot of folks, they don't want to go there, but
we went there. I didn't even hit the surface. There was some other stuff I wanted to talk about, but time flies. We'll save that.
Well, I got to let them know. 818-985-5735. We get 10 of you to pledge $100 for this program in this station. That would be terrific.
That would be terrific. Okay, well, thanks, Gary. Thanks, listeners. Support this station. Support the station. We're volunteers, most of us. We do it because of the love of humanity. Ife, take us out.
Yeah, this has been a wonderful show. I hope that folks keep your critical brain
We're
on.
out. He's
Don't
gonna
trust
fade us out.
everything you believe.